Hey, welcome back to another episode of It's a Football Thing. As always, I'm your co-host, RJ the Balanced Blue, joined by my fellow co-host, champion mates, Scott the Gooner, Rob the Red Devil. Rob, Manchester back in the winning circle. How you doing, my man?
Yeah, good, mate. Look, a big rival. Obviously, we'll get into it soon, but beating Leeds, mate, away at home, it's put a smile on my face today anyway. So I hope you guys are well at the same time. How are we?
Yeah, not too bad. But Scott, you look pumped up, mate. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, man, it's been a big week for Arsenal Football Club. Drop points, rivals gain points, a little bit of controversy mixed with some excuses and some weak mentalities. Man, it's fun times to be an Arsenal fan. Fun times to be an Arsenal fan, but I'm sure we'll unpack it. Tonight
Absolutely.
we've got a few topics that we need to uncover. Of course, it's inevitable. We have to talk about VAR and the referees after some of the really questionable calls this weekend. We're going to talk about Arsenal. Are they starting to get a little bit symptomatic like their rivals Tottenham? Are they starting to bottle it? We'll go through that. And of course, we'll talk about Chelsea dropping points again, United and City cruising, Spurs being humiliated by Harry Souttar's Leicester. Plenty to talk about, but good evening to some of the people in the chat. Drop a like. We got George here. Morning, guys. The elephant at the top of the tree is starting to look a little more uncomfortable. Yeah, look, you know what, George? We'll get there, man. We'll get there. The rubber ducky's in the house. I hope you're proud of me, mate. Top 110,000 in the world at the moment. Top of our league. Good times in FPL, not in the PL. And we got Justin here too. I'm sure he's in a good mood after this morning. But boys, let's quickly chat about Spurs. Put me in a good mood before I get into a bad mood. Leicester absolutely humiliated them. Humiliated them. Harry Souttar getting an assist, playing a good game. All good for us as Aussies, right? Did you catch any of that, Robbie?
What can I say about Spurs, mate? This is Spurs in a nutshell. They just come off the back of winning City, and then they get absolutely smacked at Leicester. Like it just honestly, I don't know which way to look for them. I mean, like, oh yeah, they're getting a bit of form here. Big win against City. They're right behind us. They're going to be going a bit of a run. Bang! It's actually crazy. And like I know that's the Premier League. It's a roller coaster, but they're really a team that I just cannot pick week to week. Man, 1 minute they turn it on, and 1 minute they just complete debacle. So yeah, look, beautiful. Obviously, a big result for Leicester, who are slowly gaining a little bit of momentum themselves. Man, a couple of wins on the bounce, slowly starting to creep up. Maybe it's the right decision that they didn't get rid of Brendan Rodgers. A few of the players that come back from injuries, Madison starting to score goals again. So they're starting to hit that little bit of form and starting to move away from that dangerous area. So big win for them regardless.
And that result sees Spurs drop out of the top four for the first time in a while. I feel like they've just been glued in fourth place all season. RJ, should Spurs fans be worried?
Well, it's still a long way to go, of course, but I think they should be worried about their general form. They're very Jekyll and Hyde. How can you be so good against one city, the city, and lose to the other city a week after? Not even. So, look, credit to Brendan Rodgers. We've given him a bit of slack this season because I think for the most part Leicester have been a shadow of their former selves. But lately they have turned it around. So credit to them. Some great goals. And yeah, Tottenham, mate, they're a curious case to watch. But yeah, I wouldn't be worried if I was them. But they're so difficult to predict at the moment. Good old Spurs.
And this is going to be a cracker, as Justin's pointing out.
Mm.
Really interested to see how this one plays out. We'll be dropping our predictions video a little bit later in the week, so make sure you keep an eye out for that. They're always good fun. George, watch the Spurs game at a pub in Camden. Absolutely.
Where's our invite, George?
No, mate, not our Camden. I'm pretty sure he's talking about Camden in London. Beautiful area, though. Been there a few times. Then don't forget to smash that like button. Let's move on, gents. I want to talk quickly about Manchester United because your game wasn't overly controversial. We'll kind of pull Arsenal and Chelsea's games together under that banner of VAR. Robbie, you hate Leeds. You'd be happy with those points, right?
Yeah, definitely. Look, and if you went back, obviously we played them back to back, home and away, and within the last few days. I would have actually, and if I was to pick the 4 points, I actually thought we would have get the home win, and I would have taken a draw away at Ellen Road, because they're always up for it there. But look, it feels just as sweet to, after we did come back from 2-0 down at home, and obviously today got the 3 points away at Ellen Road, which obviously felt good. But look, if I'm going to be honest, short and sweet with me on this one, boys. I thought it was a terrible. I mean, up to the 80th minute, I thought it was a pretty bad on both teams. Man, it was a pretty unwatchable game. The last 10 minutes, like obviously, our subs made a big change to the team. Obviously, Luke Shaw went back from. He had a good game at centre back, but obviously Melissa
great
went
game.
off. But Mr. Wakehorse, who I thought again we haven't really been playing to his strengths, he got dropped into the number 10 and he just turned into like prime Pirlo for the last 10 minutes. Honestly, since he dropped in, he was linking up the play, he was helping defensively. Marcus Rashford moved into the middle. I think it's about 3 weeks in a row now. As soon as he's gone from 9 and he's been moved into another position or obviously subbed off, literally Marcus Rashford has scored a goal. So a header as well, which is funny enough. So, we've got a 6'6" guy there, doesn't get across all game. Literally the minute he moves, 2 minutes later, we score a banger of a goal. And then, look, young Garnacho, 5 minutes later, put the nail in the coffin. It felt good. But like I said, for me, winning ugly away, mate, is winning at the end of the day. I don't care. I said it wasn't a great game. The last 10 minutes, we really turned it on. We put the ball in the back of the net 4 times in the last 10 minutes. Obviously, 2 counted only. Obviously, only 2 counted, but 2 very slightly just offside goals. But for me, again, with results that went the way this weekend, I'll take another 3 points.
Absolutely, man. Look, RJ and I know as good as anyone how much you'd like to take 3 points from a game. It's been 2 matches for us without 3 points, and it's starting to hurt. But RJ, I don't want to talk about Arsenal yet. Let's just get Chelsea out the way. Then let's move on to my team. And good evening to my man, JC.
Who said I wanted to talk about Chelsea, mate? Channel. Nobody wants to talk about them. But Arsenal Analyze, they do great stuff. You're right, 100%.
Go for it, Arch. Talk to us, mate. Let's vent.
Let's vent indeed. I had a good vent earlier in the day with that Chelsea pod. I know they're good content creators themselves. Nick, go check them out. But for me, look, 20 minutes, great 20 minutes. Individually, collectively, West Ham didn't come out of the blocks, took a deserved lead, had 2 goals ruled out, both pretty narrow offsides like United as well. And then we concede. It was a funny time to concede because we were totally dominant. But at point, Kepa had really one save to make a couple moments before that. But the goal itself, we tried to play out from the back. Kukurea loses possession. We didn't regroup in time. They put in a nice cross. The flick-on header from Bowen is what made the goal, because that flick-on header essentially took out Badiashile and Silva because they would have diverted into their net. And former Blue, of course, scores his first goal for West Ham against Chelsea. So that's always a great thing. And look, after that, the response was awesome, and there was no VAR controversy in our match. You just got to hand it to West Ham and Souček. They were brilliant for their point, and ultimately we weren't good enough in the second half. We had a few good moments, but it's funny. It's a funny old game because we're good. Were you
laughing?
In certain moments.
I don't think you were laughing.
Laughing was one way of framing it. Laughing, crying, yelling, bashing up things around the house. So all of it was happening, Scott, as you can imagine. But the funny thing is, again, with this whole situation, it was, mate. You would be very pressed, George. The reasoning that they gave, the amount of time that they spent looking at the goal that West Ham scored was the most obvious, quick decision you'll find. In the first half, like I said, those 2 offside goals, which were narrowly offside, you've got to give them credit, but they looked at them for 0.5 of a second. There was a situation where Soufal completely takes out Mudryk on the touchline, not even a foul. That's a yellow card at minimum. And then he gets a yellow card in the second half. Yeah, a bit of that. Ultimately, we just got the big D when it came to the VAR call at the end. And look, Graham Potter, a lot's been made of his non-reaction at the end in terms of that's life. That's his famous speech now. What do you want? Yeah, I know, but hang on. What do you want him to do? That's one hand of it, because he can't change it after the match. But some are saying maybe he uses that as an opportunity to take some of the pressure off the players and put a bit of heat back onto the referees to sort of distract them, because the performance in patches was good. But when you just say that, they made a mistake, what are you going to do, move on? I get that element because you can control what you can control. But some fans, and even admittedly at the time, I'm like, come on, mate, you're allowed to speak up here and say, no, they got it wrong here. This is ridiculous. We've dropped 2 points now. Like, he's allowed to not be himself because he's a calm guy, but there's nothing wrong with being honest and saying, nah, they are wrong here and we got dudded. So, look, it's going to have an interesting reaction when we come to Dortmund. But, yeah, mate, it's a gut-wrenching 2 points dropped.
Just before we move on from your match, I like this comment from FPL Rubber Ducky. Chelsea's still an enigma. Potter's struggling but needs time. He does need to start kind of picking a strongest 11. And he does have a big squad. You signed a lot of players in a January window. But you know what? One player who I think definitely needs to be in that strongest 11, Joao Felix. What a player.
Very well.
By a country mile. It's so funny. He's played, 2 games for you? And he's by far looked miles better than any other player in your team this season. Now, this is a good thing for you in the short term, but this is also from a loan perspective with no obligation to buy. I keep thinking about this, and I'm not hearing Chelsea fans mention it, probably because you guys don't need to worry. You'll pay whatever they want anyway. But if you paid 120 for Enzo Fernandez, right? And Felix now for the rest of the season proves, like he is already, that he is your best player by far. What the hell are Atletico Madrid going to ask for from you? Because you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you don't pay up for your best player, your fans are going to be furious and you miss out. Or do you just get held to ransom by Atletico Madrid? Very clever business by them for me. I think they've played this so well. Well, because they'll hit you for 150 mil.
No, well, yes and no. Hang on, because yes, we've paid a bit, but you know what it's like when you have a really disgruntled player going in and causing toxicity in the camp. He can go in there and cause a whole major storm back at the club. Yeah, we done played it, but we can see what a good player can do to the dressing room. If he holds them to ransom and really causes a storm, if he wants to go to Chelsea and they're not playing ball, I wouldn't be surprised if he causes major dressing room problems and Simeone says he's got to go, or otherwise they might even get rid of Simeone. I doubt it. But for me, perspective, it's a game and a half. He's played well, obviously very, very well. He's been world class, some would say, as he says, tongue in cheek. But Enzo Fernandez as well has been very good so far, and he's looked good. So, yeah, Atletico, credit to him. But for me, I just want him to deliver fully on this loan and go from there.
Robbie, what do you think about Felix, man? Do they need to break the bank? And I don't know how true any of this is. Rubber Ducky saying word is that this won't be a permanent deal. That to me would only mean that Atletico are going to relieve Simeone at the end of the season. But do you think from what you've seen, Robbie, that Felix is going to be their most important player for the rest of the season? Because they can't score goals. That's their issue. And he can do that.
Put it this way, I was very impressed that first 20 minutes. They scored the goal again, like RJ said, 2 or 3 ruled offside.
Mm-hmm.
I seen the equaliser. After that, I went to bed thinking I was going to wake up and I was going to see 6-1 to Chelsea. And that was honest. And like I said, I call it how it is. I've been given a punch to the guts of Chelsea the last few weeks, which has been deserved from a neutral perspective. But I really think that, when you see players like him, obviously Enzo as well, nice link up for the goal. Him and Joao Felix really look a level above a lot of those players in the Chelsea team. And those players should be cemented, I'd say, in the 11 for the rest of the season. For me, Arsenal missed a trick, mate. I think they dodged the bullet with Mudryk, but, mate, for someone in your position, I think you guys should have had a bit more of a crack at a Joao Felix. And that's not to say that at the end of the season, if you guys get Champions League or win the league,
mate, who knows?
I'm just saying you have to put in, but he might be happy here for the rest of the season. But if they get Conference League and you guys get Champions League, or there's another team that comes in with Champions League, you'd think at that point, if you're weighing up your options, which way do you go? It's, a lot of players want to play at the elite level. So a lot of people have to think about that too. Chelsea are good, but they might have to spend the money and say, okay, well, we're going to have a big season as well. But for me, class player looks the goods and he can. I never count Chelsea out, mate. If they click, they go on a run, they can move up that table very quick.
Potter's just not that guy for me. But look, let's move on. Let's hold that Souček, because that was one of the big mistakes from this weekend. The other, and I would probably argue the biggest mistake, came in our match. Brentford, for me, tactically set themselves up fantastically. They looked at what Everton did, and they said, you know what, let's just go and try to do that. Let's sit back, let's frustrate them, and let's hit them on the break, or take advantage of a set piece if we can get one, because they're a very good team on set pieces, one of the best in the league. We were flat. We were tired. Saliba lost all of his aerial duels. That, for me, unbelievable. I don't know what's going on with his form at the moment. Martinelli looked very flat. I was happy with Trossard when he came on. That's a plus. I think Arteta needs to look at the team and maybe just start making a few little changes by starting Trossard, give Martinelli that rest, bring Martinelli off the bench and play him up front if it's not happening for Eddie. Xhaka, Thomas Partey were poor. And I haven't said that about any of these players this season because it's been all rainbows and joy. But I think that rainbows and joy has also caused a bit of another problem. And we saw this with the Arsenal fan base last season. Now, this might be my age speaking a little bit more. I've been around when we were doing good things as well. So I've seen us win. I've seen us be awful. The excuses in our fan base are shocking. Brentford, I thought, had a goal that should have stood. They called Mbeumo back. They said it was a foul. There was no foul there for me. There was absolutely no foul. If that had happened to us, I'd be filthy. They hit the crossbar. They scored a good goal. They were tactically the better team. We were flat and we were lethargic. So a lot of our fans coming out and using the goal that was given, which was offside, as the big excuse, when really they had one as well. You can't sit there, watch us play against Everton last week, watch us play this game, and be sitting there and just putting it down to referees, because you know what that does? That doesn't hold the team or the manager or the club accountable. We've just had a January window where players like Felix were available. We chose not to do that. You've got to trust your club. We've then come out and played 2 really piss-poor games, and tactically we've looked tired and unable to break down a low block. Stop blaming referees. It was an awful call. They admitted that it was a mistake. But how many times have I said, you make your own luck? We shouldn't need to rely on VAR to be winning. And Brentford are a good team. Let's not take that away from them. But this happened last season. We bottled top 4. And what did we do? A lot of fans go and said, we weren't expected to get it anyway. Weak mentality. Weak mentality doesn't hold them accountable. This season, we are in the title race still. We're still leading. It's not panic stations. It's not Arteta out. It's not these players are hopeless. We need to make sure that this is just a blip. Because if we don't fix this soon, or we cop a couple of injuries, this won't be just a blip anymore, and we could then slip. So I just want fans to stop arguing with me about one VAR decision when we've had some go our way as well, and accept that we haven't been good enough, because that's a fact. That's a fact. And excuses don't help anyone. Grow up and accept it. Robbie, what did you think then? Because it was a shocking call. Yeah, it was a shocking call, and they admitted it.
100%. Like, they made an official statement come out, and I think, we'll get to it, but both calls in both your games were shocking. Like, honestly, I do understand a little bit. Like you said, you've seen both sides of the story there, but you do have to think a little bit on the side of, you have to make your own luck. But when there's some calls that are that bad and actually deciding points as well, I think it happened last year or something like that when, one of those ghost goals happened when the VAR just turned off for the something. And, there are 2 points. It could be a difference between a team going down, a team winning the title, a team getting Champions League football. Okay, a lot of ifs and buts, and, but they are big points, man. 2 points dropped for Chelsea, 2 points dropped for you guys today. For me, I just think that it's the big thing is the VAR and the referees at the moment, mate. They are shocking. And the thing is, no matter if they put their hand up and they put a written apology, it's not going to give the points back, or it's not going to it's not going to rectify the situation at the end of the day, which, at the end of the season, I know you get calls and you don't get calls, but for me, they've really got to, what's the point of having technology if it doesn't work? That's what I don't understand, especially when it's clear and obvious. If it's not clear and obvious and there's a grey area, fair enough. But the way it is at the moment, like that handball in the Chelsea game, like that offside there, I don't understand what the guys are looking at. Like,
even the red card, Robbie, in the Wolves game, the third player in gets a second. Come on, when you've got, I saw pictures from your game and our game where there were multiple players surrounding refs. Are you going to book the third player in there? Is that the new rule? It's just disgraceful. It's disgraceful. RJ, are we at a point now because there's Arsenal fans putting petitions out, sack him, fire him. Great, you sack him. You sack an experienced referee. You bring in someone who's just going to make the same bloody mistakes anyway. Like, what's the answer here? Is it time for VAR to go, or is there something we can do to make this better? We've talked about this so many times since we've done this pod, and they can't fix it.
No, they can fix it. We're not looking at a broader issue. They can. Do they want to? And what I mean by that is quite simply, you got to think about it. The bigger point here is VAR is very good, or the use of VAR. So again, we're using VAR as if it's its own entity. VAR is not the entity. VAR is the technology. It's the people behind VAR. Let's get that very clear.
100%.
Human incompetence. A lot of it, I believe, genuinely, I know it sounds crazy, a lot of these on-the-margin calls and controversies are exactly the kind of interaction and drama that hypes up the Premier League. I think they love this stuff. I think for some stuff where it's so blatantly so poor and obvious, to be consistently wrong, and we get controversies so frequently, it can't be that they're all bad all the time, but there's just enough there that gets people talking, gets those interactions up, gets all of this stuff happening. Mate, it's not a conspiracy theory or anything like that, but the problem's not the technology. It can't be. These are people, some of them are non-football people, like the whole handball situation. He's falling to the ground. They look at it for 5 seconds. They look at Declan Rice's one for 2.5 minutes looking for a goal. This kind of stuff, where they know it's obvious, they know people are going to talk about it for the next 2 or 3 days, and it gets those interactions up. So me, personally, VAR's not the problem. It's the people. They won't fix the people as long as they keep people coming back and watching all of this. So, yeah, we're just going to have to live with it, boys.
Man, if I wanted to watch Days of Our Lives, I'd go to my grandma's. Like, it's ridiculous. Robbie, what were you going to say, man?
Oh, VAR's here to stay, man. No matter how many bad calls they make, they're never going to go backwards. They've got the technology there. It's going to. We hope that the people get more educated, maybe, so they can start making the right calls more consistently. But they will never get rid of VAR. They will never get rid of it.
If these people aren't educated, who the hell is? Like, who is educated in checking if something meets the criteria of the rules? If these guys aren't, they're meant to be the best league in the world, the best players in the world, the best rivalries in the world, but they can't get a decision right or forget to draw lines. It's not right. I don't know what I want, but one idea I have, and kind of similar to what George has said here, he said it's a point of no return.
Yeah, the transparency.
Yep. What he'd do is make refs do a press conference. Now, I really like what the NRL do here, the National Rugby League, in the fact that the fan can hear the conversations happening in the bunker, which is our version of Stockwell Park. I want to hear the conversations that are happening in there. I want transparency. And you know what? If they're making bad calls, they do need to be accountable. Now, I read a post today saying, look, in a case like Arsenal's, where they've acknowledged that it was their mistake that cost us points, the fixture should have to be replayed. I don't think we can fit that in an already crowded calendar, but if they're coming out and owning the mistake, surely there's got to be some kind of consequence. I don't know. What do you think about that replaying fixtures, Arch?
No. Look, and that's ridiculous, because that's not 100% true in terms of that decision didn't happen in the last second of the game that determined the outcome. You don't know what could happen after that point. So you can't, that's an over-the-top reaction, in my opinion. So look, there's got to be some accountability. What is it? You drop the manager, you get some compensation, but it just, human error is a part of the sport. We've got to accept that. We've got to accept the fact that we have a technology that's meant to improve accuracy, but there's still got to be an acceptance of tolerance. There's still going to be that 1% that's not going to go perfect, and we're going to have to live with that. It's the transparency thing's a good one. Mic them up. Let us hear it. Let us hear after the game. And you know what? Sometimes we want to hear as fans, not just when there's a controversy, but talk to us about your opinion for the ebb and flow of the game. They're in a unique position to tell us what they thought of the game. So it doesn't always have to be about negatively putting them under the bus, but talk to us every game, your reflections on it. And if there's any key talking points, talk about it. We just want to hear about it. For now, I don't think they'll do that because they don't want to put these guys under more pressure, because they don't want this stuff to be the talking point. They want fans, pundits, and everybody else to do all of the talking for them. I genuinely believe that.
I don't know, Robbie. Last word on VAR. Going to leave it to you, mate.
No, look,
VAR out.
nah, look, it's not going to bar out or not. It's here to stay, which is unfortunate. As we always hope, we just hope to get the calls right a little bit more, and I hope they make those grey areas a bit more black and white.
Yep, absolutely. And just let us know why. Give us some kind of insight, and if there's a mistake, maybe we as fans can walk away with a little bit more understanding or some kind of interpretation. And maybe it's time for them to start looking at a couple of rules, particularly around handball and offside, and look at how they can make these clear cut. Absolutely clear cut, because every time we have a VAR controversy, it's offside or it's handball. Really, it's very rare that it's something else. But boys, it's been a jam-packed week of Premier League football. We obviously saw as well Newcastle drop some points against a resilient Bournemouth. We saw Wolves in that dramatic win against Southampton. City did the business against Unai Emery's Aston Villa. They couldn't do us any favours, but we've got some more football coming. Was there anything you wanted to add on the Premier League, boys, before we move on to some European football?
Robbie?
Look, obviously, I think a quick shout out. Obviously, a few of the managers within the last week have been sacked.
Yes.
Obviously, Jesse Marsh out the window, and I think the Southampton manager, he's gone as quick as he's kind of come in. But yeah, look, I think for me, had to be reduction. When you're at the bottom of the table, when you're in a relegation dogfight, it's always going to happen. They got to pull the trigger at some point. For me, it's a smart idea. You got to pull the trigger now. Not when 6 weeks left. A manager's got to come in. For me, they should have pulled the maybe that little bit more earlier. If there's a transfer window that just passed, you pull the trigger. He can maybe get a few players in. These guys have got to come in and whatever they've got to work with whatever they have. So uphill battle for both teams, I think. But Southampton really is a mountain.
You've only been there a couple of months. No, I mean
95 days, I think it was. Yeah.
The guy was talking him up like he was like himself was Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho. Like he was one guy, mate. He came out himself and said, "I'm better than these managers. I'm just as good as these managers. Give me the
Conor
time."
McGregor, mate.
Yeah, hard, mate.
If you don't back yourself, who else is going to back you, man? I applaud his confidence.
You know what, man? I've got to say, I had no leads that Jesse was going to get his marching orders to poor bloke. I felt so sorry for him.
Love it.
RJ wrote that in the back of about 48 napkins this week.
No, I didn't. That's on the spot, mate. That's on the spot. And unfortunately, we didn't get a spot kick. But what I wanted to shout out was the 2 goals that, for me, were awesome. Ex-Blue, Willian for Fulham. Cracking goal.
What a goal.
And he hit the post in that game. But also, did you see the one? I think it was Mendy for Leicester, their equaliser.
What a hit.
The ball's still going, I heard. Yeah. Still going all the way to Tottenham Stadium. So, I just wanted to shout that out, boys.
Perfect. Boys, European football's back. This is Robbie's favourite time of the year as our European football correspondent. Again, and while we do this, if you see your team in the fixtures, give us a quick prediction in the chat. But let's look at Europe's premier competition, the Europa League. Now, not all Europa League teams are in this round of games. Some of us topped our groups and have gone through. We await the winners from these, but Robbie's team is in this, playing powerhouse Barcelona. Rob, just quickly, a couple of thoughts on this.
Yeah, look, obviously on paper it looks like it should be a Champions League in the wrong fixture, but look, we're in the Europa League, and I think now that if you look before Christmas or the World Cup, I wouldn't have minded playing Barcelona. That's why they ended up in the Europa League. They were shocking. Look, both teams are in really good form at the moment. They're topping their league by like 16 points at the moment. We've obviously been in a nice purple patch ourselves. Few injuries for us. Obviously, Casemiro comes back in for this one, which is a big bonus. It's going to be a very hard game, especially away at the Camp Nou. Look, mate, I would take a draw right now over there and hopefully try and do the business back at Old Trafford. But I do have a feeling they might edge the first leg at home, and then we're going to have to try and reel them back in and go for it. But you know what? I'm not too stressed about this. I'm kind of happy we're playing them right now. Look, if we progress and knock out a favorite, bonus. If we don't, I'd rather play them now. If we're going to get knocked out now, that's one less competition to think about. Keep our eyes on top 4. Hopefully, we've got a cup final. We do have a cup final coming up in a couple of weeks as well. All eyes on them. But for me, it's just go out, see what we can do, mate. I think it'll be a really good game. Both legs should be really good.
Interesting. RJ, are there any other fixtures on this list that look tantalising to you?
Yeah, I'm interested in a couple actually. I really think the Salzburg Roma game and Sevilla PSV, exciting teams for me. It'll be interesting. I think teams like Roma with Jose Mourinho with his cup competition expertise, I think he'll be relishing this opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see because they're doing pretty well in Serie A, of course. But yeah, now there's a few decent teams left in this competition. I've got to say, for a Champions League snob for now, I can say there are some good teams left in this competition. So we'll definitely be one to watch.
And even in there, another match that's catching me, Union Berlin are 1 point behind Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. And Ajax, we know, play some great football. I think that'll low-key be a very interesting tie. That's probably, besides Barca and United, that's probably my pick of the bunch. I don't watch a lot of Union Berlin, but to be there on the table, they're obviously doing something right. But now we move on to the next competition. We've got 4 matches coming up this week. I know RJ will be very interested in these. This is the Champions League. These are the 4 matches we are looking at. Milan hosting Spurs, Bruges, Benfica, Snorfest, PSG versus Bayern, and Dortmund, Chelsea. RJ, your team are playing. Are you going to get past Dortmund?
I thought you were talking about we're going to get past PSG. No, I'm just kidding. But it's listening to Graham Potter, he's sort of trying to downplay it a little bit, which doesn't really instill much confidence when he's saying it's only you don't want to look too far ahead, blah, blah, blah. Dortmund's a good team. Again, all very reasonable things to say offline, but you're trying to rally the troops here. You're trying to talk to the fans because this is your platform. It doesn't really make me feel too motivated or inspired. That said, I was inspired by what I saw against West Ham in those opening exchanges. And like you boys called out, Felix, if he's here for now, here for long term, whatever, he came out and said, this is the competition we need to focus on. Enzo is a World Cup winner. We've got some other Champions League winners in there. Thiago Silva, i.e. the Benjamin Button of football, has extended his stay. I'm not going to say let's add number 3 to the Champions League umbrella, but I do fully expect us to at least give this one a red-hot crack in this league. This is Graham Potter's chance to get a statement win as Chelsea manager. And, man, we're in it to win it in terms of at least this round. If we can't realistically get past Dortmund and make a good account of ourselves, I'd be very, very disappointed based on what we've got and what we're working with now. But
I think you're in a good position, Arch. I think you're in a good position because people are going to look at you like at some of these other teams. I could see Dortmund sitting there, like just rubbing their hands together, thinking this team at the moment is in chaos.
Vulnerable.
Their manager's not confident. There's all new players. Let's go get them. But you know what? Sometimes you got to worry about the wounded lion, to use your mascot as a pun. And I could see Chelsea. I do see Chelsea getting through this 2-legged tie and progressing further in the cup. Robbie, the standout match for you here?
Look, I think the up in bright lights one has to be Paris versus Bayern for me. Like that's yeah. Look, if you're looking at superstars, but look, just touching on the Dortmund Chelsea one, I agree with Morgan. I actually think Chelsea get the better of them both legs. I think they can maybe get a 1-0 win away. And then even if that's a 0 or draw at the bridge, it doesn't bother. I think they can progress in this. Again, it's a clean slate for everything. That's why, for me, I'm excited. This is a clean slate. Doesn't matter what you've been doing in the league. Everyone's on level playing field again. And I think all these fixtures are quite, the seesaw is very even from all of them. I don't think there's a clear winner. You can just say he's going through. But I do think Chelsea, again, they've got something with the Champions League. And as I said before, I never count them out because they can go on a run. I didn't expect them to go on a run in the last time when they made star number 2 and they won the thing. But look, PSG and Bayern, I think that's another cracker there, mate. You got all the superstars, both teams again, obviously on top of their league, which they should be. Paris Saint-Germain for me have been, we're talking about shaky. Arsenal being a bit shaky lately. They've definitely been shaky. Got knocked out of the cup last weekend against Marseille. Some of their superstars haven't been firing on all engines. But again, at the same time, Bayern hasn't been squeaky clean and perfect either. They've only just edging out Union Berlin, as you said. So for me, obviously PSG home got the advantage. I think these two ties will be really, really interesting and very good.
100%. And look on Spurs and Milan. I think Spurs have lost Bentancur. Did he get injured?
ACL out for the season.
That's a big loss for them, and especially when they haven't quite been clicking. They've been up and down. This is low-key going to be a big match for them. They really don't want to bow out of the Champions League this early, but I could see AC Milan punishing Spurs.
But they've dropped the ball themselves in Serie A, mate. They've had a plane crash. I don't know what's going on with them, moment.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I just get that feeling that they're going to rise to the occasion. Whereas, you know, I don't know about Spurs rising to much of anything at the moment. They're so inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get. They're either going to be the best team in the world or they're going to be like a pub team. And I have a feeling we're going to see pub team in the UCL from them.
But you know what, Scott? You know, I was going to say, rumor has it that Spurs are getting a psychology manager to picture AC Milan in Manchester City kits, because that's the only way they're going to get a win, mate. That's the only way that it will happen for them. Because, I'm with you. I think AC Milan overall are probably the better team, but their domestic league form is really concerning at the moment. So I'm interested to see if they bounce back in Europe.
Absolutely. Look, boys, been a big week of football, plenty of Premier League action, controversy. We've talked VAR. We talked about some solutions. I mean, you're just banging on a drum, aren't you, because we have no power. We've talked about the European leagues coming back, the Champions League, the Europa League, all that fun. But, boys, I've got a couple of quick fires for you tonight. I've been prepared. Valentine's Day, just around the corner, tomorrow. I know you boys, a lot of people out there don't know it, but you look at these two. They're studs, mate. These are two romantic fellas. If you need kings of romance, don't bloody talk to me. But these two fellas, look at them, mate. Look at them, absolute studs. What do you got planned for V-Day, RJ? What are you doing, Casanova?
Hopefully I get a home-cooked meal and everybody has a good day. No.
Tight ass, take her out, mate.
I've got nothing, mate. I'm a Chelsea fan. My whole life's dedicated to football. Football and fun and more football. Look, not much on my end, mate. Maybe I'll be spontaneous. Who knows? We'll have to see.
In other words, he's playing something elaborate. Robbie, I know you're romantic. Go on, mate. What's going on? Bit of Barry White.
You've talked oysters. You've talked us out. Look, the bad thing is, look, I have organised something small for the missus, but she's actually she's a dance teacher as well, and she was actually taking a class to about 8:00 tomorrow night. So it's going to be a late dinner with us, but bit of Netflix and chill maybe after. We'll see how we go.
That's it. Well done, boys. Look, and as for me, for those wondering, I have a mortgage, mate. There's no presents. The present is that we'll continue to pay the mortgage, keep the roof over our heads until we get this thing to 100,000 subs, and then I can retire from work and put a bigger roof over our head. So that's the romance in the Borg household. Have you got anything else, boys? You got a quick fire for us?
Anything tonight, mate?
Terrible.
Yeah, I have a good football one for you, boys. What is something that really, and this is to use Scott's term, what grinds your gears on a football pitch? As I saw something earlier today that inspired me to ask.
I'll go quick. I'll buy some time, Scott, in this one. For me, it's been happening every now and then with my team too. I hate when players go down and like they just go down no matter what. It could be like they could be losing the game. It could be 0-0. They'll go down even if the other team's attacking, and then they'll think that the referee is going to make the call. And then if the referee doesn't make the call, then they get up like it just burns me. I'm like, just get up. Like, honestly, that it really burns me. I'm like, I scream at the TV all the time. Mr. Bruno, he's a big culprit in our team that does it a lot. Sometimes he gets kicked and he goes down fair enough, but sometimes he goes down for the dumbest things and he thinks he's going to get the call. And there's been a few times where we've been punished when the team's gone out, scored a goal, and there hasn't been called back or something. So for me, just get up, put the ball out of play, and then go down or something. Not let it's just one less player. You're letting your team down by saying down.
Jared Bowen did it for West Ham.
RJ, we were at the MacArthur game yesterday, and what did Wellington do? Laid down for a good 3-4 minutes while the play continued, so that they definitely looked at it on VAR, got a penalty. Sucked in, we saved it though. We'll take that. Look, another thing that's really been grinding my gears, really bad corners. Corners not getting past the first man or getting nowhere near that area. Man, you know what? You take me down the local park, I can probably ping in a few corners, and I'm nowhere near my athletic peak. You young guys, in shape, professional footballers, don't worry about tricks. Get your corner into the box. Like, it's really, every time it happens, man, and Arsenal are notoriously, we're shocking with our corners. We have been over the years, but yeah, that for me. What about you, Arj?
Oh, really a couple things. Firstly, when you see a fresh sub on the pitch and they're not running at full
Whoa.
pelt, when they're walking,
Oh my
and I said
God.
it yesterday when I saw it at the game, but it's people come on the field and they start jogging lightly when they're tracking back. It's like, no, you don't have no right to do that. You should be 110 miles per hour every second you're on the pitch when you come on because you're the freshest one. No excuses. But also for me, it's when you have a situation when there's a very clear passing avenue forward and they go backwards. I hate when we go backwards unnecessarily. That to
Kukurea,
me,
you watch him?
mate,
Have you seen
it's
that
not even just
compilation going
him.
around?
Oh, mate, and that's another thing.
No more
Failed football
compilations in the Chelsea
compilations.
community. Get over it.
It's disgraceful. People shouldn't do that. I don't like it. But yeah, backward passing unnecessarily really gets me upset.
Yeah, you were firing up at the football yesterday. Robbie, I've got to ask you, audience of us, just a quick mention on the Sydney derby. Obviously, if only these derbies and matches were won in the stands, you guys would be right up there. But it didn't quite happen. Give us a quick word on the Sydney derby.
Yeah, look, was there great atmosphere as usual, mate. I was in the march. March was great. The tifo was world class in my opinion. I love how they put it out there. I'm a big fan of tifos and stuff like that. And I think the RBB is close enough to give some challenge to the Europeans out there. But yeah, look, on the pitch, I thought both teams had really lacked quality on both sides. If I'm going to be honest, the goal was really good. Hit it with venom. Really good goal. But besides that, like for a derby, I just didn't feel like. Thought it was pretty flat to be honest. Normally. I thought even though there was a bit of a, not a fight, but a bit of a coming together. I thought that was a bit put on. I didn't feel like it was. I've seen a lot more passion before, but look, I'm not burning. We won at their home ground this year. They've done the business at our home ground. I think we play each other once more this year, so that'll obviously make it who wins the best of three. But look, the better team they won. They scored a goal. We didn't. We scored one that was disallowed, which was rightfully so. I think there was an offside and a handball up in the lead up, but look, it's the best goal you're going to see in the A League, mate. It's the biggest match or biggest fixture on the calendar, and look, I think it lives up for the crowds and the atmosphere. So it was good to be there, man.
And look, for anyone overseas that didn't see it, look at this for a display from the RBB. Well done to them. Look, I'm not a Wanderers fan. RJ and I both MacArthur fans, but you have to give them credit. That is a brilliant tifo. Well done to them. That they always go above and beyond. And look, to finish it, boys, it's been a heavy night. Valentine's Day tomorrow. Let's just end with a picture of the new VAR screens that they're rolling out from next week. Once we show you this, courtesy of 90 Min Football, there is your new VAR screen. On that note, have a romantic Valentine's Day. Spread the love. Make sure you keep an eye out for our predictions video, which will be dropping later this week. Take care, everyone, and enjoy your football. VAR out.
Ciao.